Will, can I dibs doing the intros
Sure. Go
for perpetuity?
Yeah.
Cool.
Perpetuity.
So I go by Nsovo.
Is your mic gonna hit your beard?
I don't know. I was actually tempted to strap it onto my beard.
They're talking about the dog.
Yeah, she pushes it.
You have strong nose. You have a strong nose.
Yes, it's all that digging.
She has boss girl vibes.
Has what?
Boss girl vibes.
Boss Gull?
Boss girl vibes.
Boss girl. Oh no, she's a warrior princess. Like Xena, but she doesn't really know who Xena is because she's too
Boss
young.
gas, light boss.
She's too young.
Yeah.
Sind wir gut, ja?
Yeah, wir sind gut.
I don't know why, but sometimes we speak in fake German accent.
Because it's fun.
Ja, kein Problem.
We are thinking about many things like boats.
Yes.
Roger Hans, what are you thinking?
Hey, listen, hey.
Stay a while and listen.
Who is this?
I need your help for some foul purpose.
I have a bad case of diarrhea. I have a bad case of diarrhea. I have a bad case of diarrhea. I have a bad case of diarrhea.
You had a warm-up question.
Yes, I have a warm-up. So, why do we eat up, chow down, tuck in, and pig out? Where are these propositions coming from, and where are we in relation to food in these situations? So,
Fuck. Give me the list again.
So when do we eat up, chow down, tuck in, and pig out?
Okay, so these are prepositions, except they're not prepositions, they're particles.
Yeah.
But they sound like prepositions because English preposition-y, or participles are, or not participles. Fuck. Let me take that again. Particles in English, particle verbs, tend to draw a particle from something that is a preposition.
Right.
And they have various things associated with them, but I don't think it's completely consistent. But so up usually means to completion.
Right.
And I think that's consistent with the usual sense of eat up.
Yeah.
Is right, like if you eat something up, there aren't leftovers.
Yeah.
Pig out. I don't know as much about out. Chow down. What's the sense of down?
It also feels like completion, but like you're putting it down there.
And then tuck in, like the in is like starting or commencing,
Right.
right?
Tuck in is kind of like a go on, eat up.
Yeah, but then like so get into no, that doesn't work. I was gonna say get into it, but that's into is not in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Huh.
Huh.
Do you have a follow-up?
I don't. This is one of those
Perplexing. So I guess what we've learned is all these particles and things are distributed across the semantic space in such a way that like you don't have one just for eating.
Yeah.
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 These are weird in other languages. So like
Yeah.
in Dutch and Afrikaans, I think fiets is a particle.
Yeah.
Fietsrad.
Right.
And so fiets is bicycle. But like that doesn't there's no English like
Bicycle out.
ride bicycle, ride bike. I'm riding a bike hard, man. No, it doesn't work.
Is this?
I'm riding bike hard. That's a bit painful.
Not as painful as riding a bike with no seat.
Ew.
I think that was a baby laughing in the other room. I think we're good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Right.
Welcome to the Wills of the Wisp podcast. It's a podcast about the whimsical, the wondrous, the weird, and the wacky, and other such things. We have here today Nsovo. Nsovo or Nsovu?
Nsovo.
Okay. With low tone, then high tone.
Yeah, low and high.
So this is a Shitsonga name.
Shitsonga, but it can also be some other related languages. Yeah.
And we have also, as always, two Wills
Hi.
for several ways.
Hi.
So I wanted to start with basic background questions, because Nsovo is one of the most diverse and interesting motherfuckers I've ever met. Which languages can you converse in, and which instruments can you play?
Let's say languages that I'm comfortable with in conversing is English, Korean, German, and Japanese. And less comfortable, but like somehow get by is Spanish and French, I guess. Yeah. But
I didn't know you spoke Spanish.
yes,
French.
somehow. Somehow. That started earlier than Japanese, actually. And So, okay, let's stop there about the languages.
And which instruments can you play?
I can play the viola, the violin, the piano, and yeah, that's the
I
major
feel like
three.
I have heard stories from you about like playing instruments with various people in various places, and I have lost track of how many different ones there are.
Yes.
But maybe I overestimated the number of instruments. Do you think you could play the harp if you encountered a harp?
I can start playing it, but like not really as a playing.
And is viol and viola and violin close enough to cello that you could just improvise on the cello?
Not really, actually.
Okay.
The violin and the viola are pretty close, but cello is quite different. During the COVID, I started learning the cello.
Oh, really?
Yes, and it's quite a different movement actually,
Huh.
because when you play the violin and the violin and the viola, moving to the right means you are going up in terms of the musical
Straight or
scale.
backwards?
Yeah, and in cello, if you move up on the right way, you are going down. Actually, that's the lowest one.
Hey.
So because you have like the instrument on your left side and just change it like this, that will give you the cello.
Yeah.
But then you cannot play like cello in this twisted
yeah,
way.
yeah,
So you have a completely different configuration of your arms. So
No idea.
in the beginning, I was looking at a note jumping up and I moved down and the sound went down. I moved to the right side and the sound went down and then, oops, what's going on? And because automatically in my mind, rightward movement is connected with going up.
But if you move
sound.
by the same amount, will
Yes.
that not give you the same note, just in a different octave?
Not really, because cello is larger, so actually the distance between your fingers are larger as well, so you can't just really do that. But viola and violin are pretty interchangeable in that sense. And and then I play the piano, and that's interesting because every notes is evenly distributed. There's no difference in the size of the key just because you go up.
Is that weird? I guess piano is probably the only string instrument that has this property, right?
Yes. It's weird for violin players or viola players because there, if you go up, your distance between the fingers has to go narrow or smaller.
Yeah.
So basically, that's what it is.
This is a thing that always frustrated me when I tried to learn the violin.
Yeah.
Fat, stubby fingers were just too
Well, I just stick with trumpet.
Trumpet.
Trumpet is also difficult.
Have you ever tried the trumpet?
I tried, but it didn't really work. But I know how tricky it is because in terms of, I really can't say more.
What is the vocabulary item
So,
for this?
so what you're looking for is your embouchure.
Embouchure.
Embouchure is your...
Embouchure sounds like something that you would buy in like the French French black market.
It's like a friand-bouche or whatever.
Yeah, like bichon frisé.
Yeah, like, so most of it is determined by your embouchure and the amount of air that you put through onto your mouthpiece. So
you can change the
you can
note
change-
without
you can
changing
change-
your finger
you
position.
can literally, so on the open position, when none of the valves are down, you can play about 6 to 8 notes depending
fucking
on
word.
how high you want to go and how low you want to go. So that all depends on how high you want to go, depends on your embouchure fitness, and also has low as well. So you've also got the hidden note. So like if you want, like, so usually if you want to play like a D, you have to do the fingering 1 and 3. But if you want to do a quick D, you just pop your 3, and it sounds. It's the quick route to get from A to, or from C to G.
Right. And that's like in the violin when you do the harmonics. Yeah, you just like quickly move up.
So your harmonics are really easy on the trumpet because if you know your shit, then you can like fuck around and find out.
Yeah. And actually, my friends watch professional musicians playing, the amateur musicians, in order to see the better or like more efficient way of moving the notes, because as an amateur player you might just want to follow the standard way, but then it's not any more efficient when you play fast passages and things like that.
I have no idea if I can do the necessary. Let me try the word. Embouchure. Embouchure?
Yeah.
How many R's are there in this word? 6?
1.
Yeah.
Fuck.
It's French.
Yes. Yes.
Save the queen. Oh wait, too late.
Yeah.
So we have not invited you here to talk about music.
Right.
What? But I mean, these conversations are always, let's say, wide ranging.
Right.
But one of the things that I wanted to ask you about is politeness.
Mhm.
So you are, dare I say, an Asian person? Would that be accurate?
I'm an earthling, but I have
You're an earthling.
Yeah, ethnic origin is Asia.
But so you have lived in societies in Asia. You have also lived in societies in Europe and
Africa,
North America and
and
Africa.
Yeah.
So I know in Korean and Japanese, there's like particular things in the grammar, in the language that you have to do that indicate politeness and
Yes.
like is it politeness or is it something else?
It's politeness, or it's not just politeness is a cover term for anything related to expressing your relationship with the others, basically.
Yeah.
So you can be polite, but you can also be deferential. You can be impolite, or you can also be relatively polite and things like that.
So how do you indicate this? Where does it go in a sentence?
So in
Could you give us an example, perhaps?
Yes, in Korean, it would go to the verb. In most cases, it's the verb that changes. So, for example, the greeting is the normal one is 안녕하세요. But let's say you want to be a little bit more polite, then you say 안녕하십니까. So 안녕하세요, the 세요 changes to 십니까. 안녕하십니까.
And do you have to pick something to plug into that slot, or is there the option of like I just end with the verb and you have to question how polite I'm being? I am cryptic. I'm wearing a dark trench coat.
Usually you have to choose what you want to do, and 안녕 is one way to make it less polite or like a more informal. I think colloquial is like just having 안녕 without that, and that's a greeting. So maybe it's not the best example, but you can also have like to eat, for example. You can have 먹습니다, 먹어요, 먹어.
So there's 3 levels.
But it used to be also 먹게, 먹소, 먹.
Used to be like these are the historical forms of the language.
Not historical, but until recently there were 6 degrees of differences in terms of the politeness, and depending on how close you are. So there's the politeness level. You have to distinguish between the people you are close to and people you are not close to. And then within that, you can also have like elderly person, like similar age, and younger person. So the way you say something in a polite way to an unknown child is not the same as how you would address a child that you know, like your nephew, for example. And same age group, your friend versus same age looking person on the subway when you ask something. And your grandma versus some older lady in the shop, like in the shop that you would ask questions. Yeah.
If you speak English, hey?
I do, yeah.
If you are speaking English, would you use different greetings depending on how old someone is? Like, is this I'm trying to suss out, like, is this a thing that all languages do, or
I mean,
is this politeness encoded in a slightly different version?
There was a distinction used to be made depending on where you were. Like, as a school kid, you would greet an adult in a different way. So you wouldn't say, "Yo, what's up?" You would say, "Good morning, so and so."
But so good morning different than what's up.
So yeah. So you'd say good
Why
morning.
did I say what's up? That's wrong.
Well, what's
Careful
up?
before the Zuck gets
Oh no! We'll have to move to Telegram.
Yes.
signal.
Jabberwocky, is that one of them?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I know that we, like, when we were raised as kids, we would make that differential between your formal adults versus, your colleague slash, person who's in your same age rank.
Yeah.
For instance, if you were going to a matric and you'd say, "What's up?" you would get yourself beaten.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it was considered disrespectful.
But also in the US, I think if you call your teacher in high school with the first name, you would not be
Yeah, I mean,
That's good.
there are some ultra cash schools
Yeah.
and other not at all cash
Mhm.
schools.
Yeah.
But like for teacher and student, that's like a very different power differential than
Right.
first year student, last year student.
Yeah.
Right.
So matric means 12th grade.
Grade 12, yeah.
It's like the final year of high school.
Right.
They thought they were the shit.
Of course, as those in power frequently do.
Yes. Yeah. So
Huh.
in Korean, these are encoded in the verbs in many cases, but you can also have in nouns or pronouns. Their things are coded in a particular way, so the vocabulary, the words are
So
different.
this is like calling someone Mr. versus calling someone Sir.
Right. So rice, for example, when you just want to be neutral, you say 밥, 밥 먹어요, or something like that. But if you want to be polite, you use the term 진지.
So this is not at all like Mr. and Sir. This is
No,
like
no.
Couch and Davenport.
Right. Yeah, 진지 드세요 or something like that. And you can also see the difference in the verb now, 진지 드세요
Yeah.
versus 밥 먹어요. And if you say 밥 드세요, it's okay because you can just make the polite form in the verb.
Right.
But 진지 먹어요 is out. So if the noun is now polite, then the verb has to match that polite form.
So you have to be consistent.
Right. You can either just make the verb polite, but or you make both of them polite. Yeah. So, and for Korean has a few words where you can raise someone by lowering you. So
What?
na is I, and cho is a differential form of I. And by lowering myself, you are you're raising the listeners. And Korean has only few items like that, but Japanese has a whole range of verbs and nouns that behave like that. When you say something to others or something to listen. So if you want to raise the listener, like for example in the customer service, they would use usually the differential form. Instead of raising the customer, they would lower themselves to make
So
the
that's like
customer.
instead of saying "How can I help you?" they're saying like "How can this dumb motherfucker help you?"
Yes,
Or
yes,
something.
yes,
And not
something
with so
like
much
that.
profanity, but
Right. So that's
Would you say that the general strategy that you have to use works the same way in Korean and Japanese, or do they feel to you, as someone who speaks both languages, do they feel like different systems?
actually they feel like different system because in Japanese you use a lot of differential form in a lot of commercial transaction or in the workplace when you exchange emails, whereas in Korean most of the forms are polite. You're raising the listener or the receiver of an email. You don't lower yourself in the process. Also in Japanese, the politeness level is also connected to the familiarity. So if you are less close, you use the polite form. If you are close, you are using the less polite form or the casual form.
This is how German works as well, right?
Yes,
It's like
so-
two separate forms of you. And Afrikaans.
Yeah.
Afrikaans, how does it work in
So
Afrikaans?
you've got the yeah, which is you, right? And then
Wait, how do you pronounce this?
JY.
How do you pronounce it?
Yay.
Yay?
Yeah.
It's not yay?
Oh, it's yay.
Oh, fuck.
I could be wrong. And
No,
like,
my
I could be
Afrikaans
wrong
pronunciation
because,
is
you know,
terrible. And
So
Yeah.
yeah.
There's always
but
more
you've
vowels
also-
than
you've also
than
got
any
the
language
the
has.
following
in this
inclusion, which is u.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you've got met u die Flammenwerfer
No
or something.
idea.
Would
Yeah.
you, my lord, like the flamethrower?
But like, A, how often do you discuss flamethrowers?
Well, I
and
don't
B,
know, so
how is there a formality difference? I would think that anytime a flamethrower is involved, you're not really thinking about it.
Oi, Johannes, please pass the flamethrower.
Ja,
Yes.
Damn it, Jakob, pass the Flammenwerfer. We need to werf some Flammen.
So it is very confusing for Koreans when they learn Japanese because culturally these two countries are not that different. You think they are very similar. People look fairly similar and things like that. And then suddenly you
Like they all wear white shirts and black pants, or
yeah,
Or is
the
that just
salaryman.
Japan? Yeah.
But Korea's not that much anymore. But like you think that all Japanese children are very disrespectful to the elders because they use the non-polite form, the casual form with their parents. But in Japanese, because the casual form is the default. Actually, if you use the polite form to your parents, that means you are not close to your parents.
Yeah.
Whereas in Korea, because it's only for the distance people.
Yeah.
And for Koreans, if you try to use the casual form in front of your parents, everybody will blame you, or like the parents will smack you or something like that.
So do you think this is a choice that like angsty teenagers deliberately make to irritate their parents?
Yeah, they
like if I'm mad at you, I will use the more polite form.
So I don't think in Japanese in Japanese I don't think it works that well, because you are going to the polite form. But in Korean it works effectively, because you are now defying the norm of using the polite form. You are using the normal form. So the rebellious children would use the normal form. So I don't think.
And do they also wear black and smoke cigarettes outside of school?
I don't know. I didn't do that.
I still
Yeah. That was quite interesting between that. And also in Japan, it's like Germany in a sense. You have to agree on what kind of form, indirectly or directly, to use. So let's say
what do you mean by agree? Like it has to be consistent through the whole sentence, or both parties have to?
Both parties have to agree which form to use. So for example, we decided to use the casual form, then it's fine. But let's say I just suddenly changed to casual form because I feel like more comfortable, but Will hasn't changed yet.
That means he doesn't like you.
Yeah.
Or like he's not ready to change it, or he wants to keep the distance. And if you change to a casual form, it means you become actually like a supervisor or someone who is on top of this other person who is using the polite form. So in Japanese, that's really, the distancing is really big. In Korean, it's all age. So you might wonder, how to determine which form to use?
Yeah.
In most cases, it's very easy to see using the transitivity rule.
So age is a thing. Age is a number. You know how numbers work. One number is bigger or smaller than another.
But you don't want to directly ask, so how old are you? To the first met person. So you know your friend's age, and you see the form that your friends use to the other person.
So there's a degree of inference.
Yes, degree of inference, you can use it. And also you'd ask the Chinese zodiac, which is by year, or like when did you enter college? Or like what year how old were you when the Olympic was in my cases?
So what do you do when these various factors conflict with each other? Like if someone is younger than you, but in a higher rank at work or something like this.
So previously, it didn't happen because it was strictly based on age. Many things were strictly based on age, but nowadays apparently it happens. So I was told by my friends that in those situations you use polite form, not the extreme polite form.
There's like a certain, like you default to the a certain level of politeness that is the norm.
Yes, and interestingly, in the military, in order to eradicate the physical abuse by the senior military personnel,
physical abuse.
So let's say you are a sergeant, and below you there's someone you don't like, and you can abuse him physically in a sense. Like maybe you are not allowed to, but it can happen. It can happen, and
what's that movie where they beat the guy with the soap? Is that Full Metal Jacket?
Yes.
But
actually, the Korean military decided to enter the language rule. So basically, if you are not in the same little unit in the military, then you have to use the polite form to the unknown people. So in that way, rank was not a direct issue. You cannot just suddenly use an abusive language to a person who is not belonging to your own unit. So in that way, they were able to apparently reduce some of the inter-unit abuse, because you can meet someone and he behaves strangely, and you'd want to just like bully him or like whatever you want to do it. And by changing the language, they were apparently able to deal with some kind of things like that.
How often does it happen that you meet someone and you like disagree about how polite you're supposed to be.
But-
and if that happens, how awkward is it?
Well, in regular situation, it doesn't happen that often. But in the military, imagine all of these people who don't want to be in the military. Maybe I should not say that. It sounds who don't want to be in the military, but they are there. It's all guys, and you can pick up people for no reason. Like, yeah, it can happen. I was an officer, so I didn't experience that much. But like, if you are a regular soldier and you live with 30 people in the same room, like
you're bound to make
yeah,
mistakes sooner or later.
yes, and some people might like it. And,
Huh. But like, so if you use the wrong level of politeness or the wrong form, like, does that person then hate you forever?
Actually,
or
one
is
of
that
the-
just like, oh no, I have accidentally sent a dick pic to my boss? Or
No.
is it significantly less awkward than that?
Actually, once you apparently, if you're a soldier, one of the first training you do is how you speak.
Yeah. Oh, really?
And you only end. They are actually told to end the sentence either with ta or ka, Tanaka. So they call it Tanaka. Na is or.
Does or okay.
Da or ka, and da is
Tanaka
for
also Japanese surname.
I know, yeah. And but in Korean it's Tanaka.
Oh, much different.
Yes. And da is for statement, and ka is for question, and you're not allowed to make a order because of that. You only make a statement and question, and you actually can identify recently discharged men, young students,
Yeah.
because they suddenly speak every sentence with ta or ka.
So when you learned English or French or Spanish, did it feel weird to speak a language that does not do this?
No, because I spoke German.
Yeah.
I see. It was not that strange. Yeah, but yeah. So politeness is an interesting issue, and
Yeah, but the other thing I wanted to ask about is, like, I know you spent a lot of time in various parts of Africa, including West Africa and South Africa.
Mhm.
How similar or how different are the sort of norms of politeness between Asian cultures and, let's say, I mean, obviously you can't generalize over Africa as a whole, right? Africa is this vast fucking place, but like,
But when I see, so my main experience is in South Africa,
Yeah.
and when I go to these local areas where there are only the Tsonga people live or Venda people live, and see how they interact with their, let's say, nephew or nieces and children, and my friends interacting with their elders, it almost feels like I'm in Asia, because, and stricter than Asia, because
stricter.
yeah, because it's like many of them tell me that you cannot ask question to whatever the elder is saying.
Really?
It's just the end of the story, so there's no but.
No, but
You can never say but. So once you may not agree, and you disagree with certain things, but you never express it in front of an elder. And that feels like 1970s and 80s in Asia.
Or I guess 1950s in America.
Yeah. Because in Korea,
Oh, really?
yeah.
cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, having less children meant, like, there's in Korea, for example, or Japan, having less children meant there's a stricter, like, relative culture of the close-knit family. And that also resulted in quite a lot of decrease in this politeness culture, because every family is really small.
So the way we do politeness has changed over time.
Has changed, like, because many people now don't have uncles or aunts or cousins, for example. My family, I have 60 cousins.
60?
Yeah,
60.
60 cousin. And when you have 60 cousins, some of the cousins are your parents' age, and some of the cousins 20 years younger than you.
See, I made a wrong assumption here, because I only have cousins who are like sort of not my age, but like there was a generational thing, right? It's like the cousins are not the parents' generation in the family I come from.
Right.
Is it the same for you, Will?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, my family is a bit strange because I've got three other aunts and uncles who are in Australia who I haven't really met. And they have kids who I haven't really.
So you're extra polite to those.
Yeah, they're kind of like the distant family, you know. Like I don't know if you know the difference between kith and kin.
No.
Mm.
Oh, it's an old English. It's an
I mean,
old
I know
English-
these words, and I know this as
It's an
a
old
like a
English,
staple thing,
it's an
but
old English.
what's the difference?
Differential. So the idea is that you've got this whole like kith is people who are directly related to you. So like your
So
brother,
like
sister,
nuclear family,
mom,
immediate
dad. Yeah.
family.
Kin is family, but only by marriage.
No.
Ah. But so
I
that does
see.
not include a level of like family, but I've never met them.
Yeah, it
Or
does.
family, but I
It's
saw
not-
them once
it's
20
not
years
like-
ago.
It's like, well, this is my brother and this is his wife. She's kin,
Uh-huh.
but she's not strictly speaking kin.
Yeah. So
Is she kith though?
Yeah.
that's interesting because based on kiss and kin, the family names in Korean culture, you don't actually, the kins don't
Yeah.
change the family name into the kith.
Yeah. Oh,
So you know that they're always kin.
Mm.
shit. Okay.
So all the women don't
Yeah.
get to change, and in modern era, it's sometimes interpreted
Yeah.
as like the woman right was protected in like some olden time Korea, but the reality is like they were never part of the real family, so they are not allowed to change.
They're not allowed to change the name because
Yeah.
Huh.
So you basically identify the wives of all the male siblings by their last name because they have a different last name, and that's basically the kin.
Does the name change in some other way?
No, they keep the maiden name basically.
Yeah.
They keep the maiden name legally, but they are never called with the maiden name.
Yeah.
So when they were a child, they have a name. Then once they get married, they become the wife of someone. Once they have a child, they become the mother of someone. They have a second child, and the first child is grown up, then the second child of someone, and then somebody's grandmother, and
This
then
sounds so much
they
like
pass
how,
away.
how
Yeah.
Xhosa family things work, right?
Right. So that's why I said Africa, for me, was not that strange because it felt very similar. And I also work in India, and India is the same actually.
Really?
Yeah, many local, not maybe majority Indians in Delhi or Bombay, but I worked in Assam and Sikkim, and
Where the tea comes from.
yes, Assam tea and like the state of Assam, and like those people there, they really have
Huh.
similar kind of relationship.
Do you think this is like why are they the same?
Actually, I think so. The more I visit other places, actually, it was the same also for the Mapudungun people in Chile.
This makes it start to seem like it's not just like a
And it was
coincidence.
also the same for the South Pacific island people, Kiribati.
Really?
They were like that with the elders and like how they interact and differential. So it made me think that North America, Canada, and Europe is the outlier, and the rest of the world follows the same.
That sounds
Yeah.
that sounds like a practice, definitely.
Yeah.
But we get exposed to the Western European culture so much, we think that is the norm. But in fact, many people seem to behave completely differently. And I'm changing the topic now.
Please.
And one thing that recently happened was the K-drama. And some people who researched on K-drama's influence on other worlds and why is it so popular was interesting to me because somebody said, okay, there was some economic reason and Korean dramas were cheaper during the IMF in 97, 98 because the Korean currency dropped.
Okay.
And that's why they were suddenly able to
But that's not why they're popular now.
No, but then they were cheaper than American dramas, so people started buying it. But once they started watching K-dramas, many Southeast Asian countries, in particular, they realized you can keep the Asian values and still be materialistically like a Western country, which you don't see in American movies or European movies or dramas.
Yeah.
So Korea has this, the Korean dramas, you see this fancy houses and things like that, but still the parents' words, even though it's nonsensical, maybe illogical, you are not allowed to defy it. And if you want to defy it, suddenly there's a conflict and all these things. Like and
How big of a conflict? Like,
well,
is this the kind of thing that splits families up, or is this just like a mild annoyance?
it splits family up, but like quite often, or like people cannot get married because the parents are against it. And usually in non-Asian context, this is resolved by leaving the parents, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you are independent, you should have your own life and things like that. Or maybe later on you get back to your parents. But in Korea, like, well, you ended up not marrying the person. In many cases, the resolution is like that, which is pretty much common across like Africa, Asia, southern, like South Pacific culture, South American indigenous people.
So what I'm building up to here is like, is there one distinctly human way of being polite, or is this a fucking arbitrary thing that we just each learn? Because like, it seems weird to me that so many cultures across different continents would converge on the same norms of politeness if it's not hardwired to some degree.
But I don't know whether it's the culture. Well, I think there might be some universal thing about like elders knowing more, and because they know more, you ended up becoming more deferential in the olden era, like when you didn't have a lot of information. Yeah. But
this is a peculiar thing, right? Because elders don't always know. Like, anyone who has tried to teach a grandparent how to use the internet will not say that elders always know more about everything.
Yeah,
I think times have changed now.
Yeah.
I mean, like, funny example, not related to anything, but my folks only watch Korean dramas now.
Huh?
What?
Really?
Yeah, my folks have found this like substream on Netflix. Because so my mom is very religious. My dad is mostly religious. And my mom cannot stand watching anything with violence or sex or anything else. So like, there's some very strict things that she won't watch. But
like, out of principle, not just like she does not
she's
enjoy
like,
it as entertainment.
But they have been
They found Korean.
subsequently, since lockdown, they have been watching more and more Korean dramas and Korean
because they can be conflicts, but it's never become violent.
Because to them, there's no real like sexiness that Hollywood brings. There's like it's all very nice and formal, and to them, they're interested in. Oh God, here we go. In the Orient.
The Orient. Wait, do they include Egypt in the Orient?
No, more or less.
Okay, so we're not that far ago.
We're talking about the Far East here.
Yeah.
I know it's a very old term. But it's such a...
It's hilariously old. It's so out of date.
Yeah, anyway, so like they got into it because my brother and his wife went to Korea for 3 years. And I still have some Korean tea, actually, which I've got in my cupboard. But anyway, shamble. Yeah, no, they really enjoy the Korean dramas because they're like, this is something that we can watch. And they binge watch. Like, they will sit for hours during the weekend, in between load shedding, watching the Korean drama.
Wow, that's interesting.
But they're not watching like the edgy, like this. I get the sense that Squid Game is not their fare, right?
They won't watch Squid Game.
Or what's that other, Bong Joon-ho?
Yeah, true.
Right.
Yeah, he has some extreme movies. Yeah.
There's a few that they won't watch, but like, they'll watch the kind of like, I don't know,
the unexpected landing, like the North Korean, like South Korean rich woman does paragliding and by mistake lands in North Korea, and then she gets taken in by a North Korean military officer, and she pretends that she's North Korean, and then she wants to go back to South Korea, of course, and then they somehow...
What is this?
This is a Netflix show, I think.
What's it called?
In Korean, it's like the emergency landing of love or something like that.
The way these names get translated amuses me to no end. Like,
no, I just directly translated.
No, yeah,
this is not the English title, I think.
I grew up in the United States, and I remember like, so the Spanish channel is a staple of my childhood. Is
Crash Landing on You.
Crash Landing on You.
Yeah, that's the English title.
So
yes,
like I remember flipping through channels, and 25 was Fox and 27 was Univision or something.
Yes.
So one would have Spanish language programming. But the first time I went to Nigeria, I was greatly surprised to see Spanish soap operas dubbed into English for the Nigerian audience, but with the titles all changed, right? So the show was El Cuerpo del Deseo, which means
desire of Huh? The desirable corpo is like the good man, the good-looking man, right?
I don't know actually. You know Spanish better
Yes.
than I do. I thought it meant like
Corpo,
body of desire or something like this. But then the English translation,
Corpo is
the English translation that the narrator would say is second chance, which has nothing to do with this.
Sometimes the English translations are completely arbitrary.
Yeah.
yeah.
Or, speaking of trash landing on you, I logged into my Netflix account because my folks and I share the same account.
Yeah, yes.
I logged into
They
my
watch
account.
Don't tell Netflix.
They've literally just watched it.
Have you ever been paragliding?
Nope.
No.
Well, okay. I was going to ask what about across a border, but I guess no entails lengths.
I've flown on several planes.
Yeah.
I have never crashed.
Have you ever been to North Korea? You?
No.
Of course not. No one goes to North Korea besides what?
But actually, a friend of mine was teaching it, as I said, Italian in North Korea. Yeah. He was an Italian instructor.
It must be so surreal to be teaching Italian in North Korea.
But I guess
And I'm honestly surprised that any North Koreans aspire to learn Italian.
I don't think it's their aspiration. The government wants to have some people proficient in Italian, and
The government of North Korea, not
yeah.
Italy.
And then they send it, and probably you are not supposed to fail.
Of course.
So
Right, yeah.
yeah. But anyway, so
do you think the use of like the linguistic expression of politeness is the same in North Korea as it is in South Korea?
I have no idea actually. The dialect is quite different.
Yeah, but I somehow like the rigidity of the government makes me think there would be a sort of like retarding or stopping from changing effect.
But yeah, it's very difficult to say because the North Korean that I usually get exposed to is the news media.
Really?
Because the news anchor, they would sometimes show like North Korea had this thing, and then they have a particular way of saying. But we know that ABC News is not the way people talk between the family members, right? So so I'm not so sure how they really talk. It would be interesting to see. I know that one of the big challenges in probably reconciliation, if there's any attempt of uniting the two Koreas, is language, because there are a lot of refugees. Maybe you may be aware of it, and the refugees, when they come into Korea, they get automatic Korean citizenship. So because Korean constitution says Korea is the entire peninsula, so that includes North Korea.
Yeah.
So the North Koreans, by being virtue of being from the Korean peninsula, they get citizenship. And they can read the language, they can write the language, but they have never opened I don't know, never, but I think never, but they never opened a bank account. They never had to get residence registration because everything was probably done for them. You don't need to go and register. You don't need to go to school to deal with your child's registration. You don't need to do tax, and all these things are completely new vocabulary for these people. So actually there's a Korean book for North Korean refugees. And the situations
like how to learn Korean for Korean speakers.
Yeah. And the situations are like the second language learners, like in hospitals, in tax, and schools, and like.
I seem to remember seeing a news story some years ago about like, I think there was an Olympics where both Koreas competed as one team.
Yes.
And there was some great disagreement among the ice hockey team of like which version of the various ice hockey jargon they're going to use. And the North Koreans refused to use like English-based terms or French-based terms, or I mean, they're all Canadian, I'm sure, ultimately.
But yeah, in the soccer, it was the first time when we learned about these things. And somehow it just came out when I was in high school, I think. At some point, the news media said, like, oh, look at the difference between North Korea and South Korea. And in South Korea, you'd use the term like a corner kick, penalty kick, and things like that. Something.
And North Korean is like kick of the ancestors?
No. They say corner kick in Korean, kusok chagi.
Okay.
They just directly translate corner to kusok and kick to chagi. So South Koreans can understand it usually, but North Koreans, if they don't know English, they have difficulty understanding the English term. Yeah. For South Korean, it just sounds funny. Yeah. You're using,
Hilarious.
So that's.
Can I suggest we take a break quick?
Yeah. I was going to say, why don't we call it?
Okay, let's call it.
Oh, wait, let's ask the question we always ask. Do you have a favorite conspiracy theory of the week?
Yes, conspiracy theory of the week.
What is your favorite conspiracy theory of the week, Will?
Me. I don't know. It's been a quiet week in the conspiracy front this week, but yeah, I'll leave that to you. What do you think?
The conspiracy theory I've been thinking about lately is the belief that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq in circa 2002, 3,
Yes.
4.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
There were never weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, really. They were never building them, but it was this widespread belief among a certain brand of American.
It was like written by someone or an analyst who thought there could be a potential for weapons of mass destruction because of like a concentration of chemicals or something.
And the close second is trickle-down economics,
Yeah.
which is also a conspiracy theory in that people believe it, but it doesn't. It's not true.
There's an interesting conspiracy theory in Korea in 1980s, late 80s, just before the Olympics. There was an election, and maybe in early 90s, one of the time period. And suddenly, before the election, or a few months before the election, they said North Korea will destroy one of the large dam just north of Seoul. And once it's destroyed, like in Ukraine, that recently happened, Seoul will be underwater. So we have to collect money to build a counter dam. And like everybody donated money. And about 15, 20 years later, everybody was saying, so where's the dam that we built? And
So they didn't actually build the dam. And the other dam is not destroyed because...
So, yeah, and we don't know what happens with all the money that was collected.
This reminds me of America.
Reminds me of Kimberly's mental health hospital as well.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah.
taken 30 years for them to still not build it.
They don't have one?
Still don't have one.
Okay.
It's still referred to as the white elephant.
Ay.
Hey,
All right. Take care of your mental health, everybody.
have
Yeah,
fun, guys.
Have fun. Bye. Thank you
Bye.
for having me.
Stay a while and listen.
The name Nsovo comes from a language called Xitsonga, spoken in northeast South Africa. So I wanted to give you a musical parting gift in the form of music from Xitsonga. What you're about to hear is a recording that I downloaded from the International Library of African Music. It's called Ngoma Ka Lo Induna, or the Induna's Song. I'll put the link in the show notes. I have bad news to go along with this. We recently lost the curator of the International Library of African Music, Andrew Tracy. I didn't know him well, but I met him a couple of times walking my dog. He was a nice guy. I always wanted to get to know him better, and then he was taken from us. Anyway, his father, I believe, is the one who made this recording, and, he's sort of the reason we have access to it, so let's just appreciate that.
Oh, Haji! Puma! Safum! Send ukuthi thaba manje. Lokuthi thaba manje. Imeyisayi ubisi nomagudu emaplangweni. Oh, sami ngwashikoko. Enduna nkopone duduza iVicenta ubisi ebawa wayena inkonyana. Baba nuna bana bamina ingani komba netikorajo. Jingani komba nenduna le kolo lankopon. Baba nuna bana bamina ingani komba netikorajo. Jingani komba nenduna le kolo lankopon. Jingani komba nenduna le kolo lankopon. Yale number one lum tender dodos. Yale number one lum tender dodos. Dola wakwebona imatishanya. Dola wakwebona imatishanya. Namtata blessing wankulu wamona torongresana. Namtata blessing wankulu wamona torongresana. Nawe baba nduna nkulu wamona. Nawe baba njona nkulu wa mono. Betere se utsamsa hansinje uyengisela. Betere se utsamsa hansinje uyengisela. Uyengisela te ora lankopon. Uyengisela te ora lankopon. Ora ya kubiwa ichumera vanu nintlanu wa vanu. ehora yakopewa ichumera abantu ninhlanu abantu ayilaveke lankopo ayilaveke lankopo gijimani ngwamaphoyisa nje muyabasecha tinombolo gijimani ngwamaphoyisa nje muyabasecha tinombolo avakona lankopo ivanzunzala vati chaime vatela kutakombela xikalu xa mkomboti himpulani xingani kombane ndhuna lekolo la nkopolo vavanuna vulava mina tanu ta vona tanu ta n'wi vona ta n'wi fakazela n'wana wa vana tanu ta vona tanu ta n'wi vona ta n'wi fakazela n'wana wa vana tanu ta n'wi vona ta n'wi fakazela n'wana wa vana munhu yalawo n'wi faka maphayipeni o yiva mabawuti tanu ta n'wi vona ta n'wi fakazela n'wana wa vana munhu yalawo n'wi faka khixini o yiva nyama tanu ta n'wi vona ta n'wi fakazela n'wana wa vana munhu yalawo n'wi faka hofisi o yiva tipensele tanu ta n'wi vona ta n'wi fakazela n'wana wa vana munhu yalawo n'wi faka xibedhlele o yiva mabandichi tanu ta n'wi vona ta n'wi fakazela n'wana wa vana munhu yalawo n'wi faka timbhunyaneni o yiva timbhunyana tanu ta n'wi vona ta n'wi fakazela n'wana wa vana munhu yalawo n'wi faka swihlahleni o yiva masawu tanu ta n'wi vona ta n'wi fakazela n'wana wa vana van'wana va ni byele vutsotsi sintoyini me kamakudu walavatamarise jamu yekontora letsala na riheti nchumu vambeni va ni byele ku kamba ndzi to tisunga me wala mane va tshekana he va tamarise jamu yekontora letsala na riheti nchumu
Hau, xi le ka wena Zepi. Tlakula kwa switwa. Savuma he zwakhe. Savuma he zwakhe.
ndita khomena hi mhake ndita khomena hi mina
Savuma he zwakhe. Savuma he zwakhe.
wo vambeni va ni byele vutsotsi sintoyini me kamakudu va tshekana he va tamarise jamu yekondora letsala na riheti nchumu vambeni va ni byele ku kamba sintoyini me kamahele va tshekana he va tamarise jamu yekondora letsala na riheti nchumu vambeni va ni byele ku lowa ndzi to tisunga me le dudusa va tshekana he va tamarise jamu yekondora letsala na riheti nchumu
Oh, hayi. Vuma.
savuma